Welcome to a new video where we make games using Unity and C#, and maybe other tools and languages later on. So I started making a video last weekend and I decided or ended up deleting everything. That's why I did not release any videos this Monday, in case you did not notice. But here I am again, attempting to create yet another video for you all. To make a long story short, I was tired. I was working, and it snowed pretty heavily here, and spent most of my free time shoveling and getting our vehicles unstuck. We still have one vehicle to get unstuck, but hopefully that can happen later on today. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, my name is George Wulfers, and I'm a professional game developer slash programmer. For the best tips and tricks on game programming, subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon to be notified when I upload a new video every Monday, or mostly every Monday. With that being said, let's get to it. Today we're going to be doing something different. Last week I received a message from one of our members, Dylan, and he was having issues with creating the leaderboard from one of my previous videos. So in this video we will be going over how to get that set up. Sorry Dylan, have not gotten back to you through email. I did review your project and there's a lot you need to do to get this done. I decided to make this video on this topic instead of writing you an email, since there is a lot to cover, and I will try to make this as short as possible, but it may span several videos. What is a singleton? I've actually done a video, in-depth video, or not really in-depth, but a longer video dedicated on just singletons. So if you haven't seen that yet, go to this video and be sure to watch that to the end. Also, be sure to watch this video to the end for some goodies, free downloadables. So a singleton essentially is a design pattern. It's more of an advanced concept. So probably you've never heard of this, since you are fairly new to game development and game programming. So essentially what this object does is it allows an instance to be created, only one instance, throughout the entirety of the application. And the reason for this is so that you have only one system that manages certain things, like audio management, or or managing like the game rules of the game or something like that. So it is pretty advantageous to have one of these. And like I said, it has only one instance, so there's only one object to manage. Technically manages itself, and it's also static, so you can access it from anywhere. You don't have to have an instance you don't have to have an instance of that object to be able to use it. You just call the get instance or instance static variable or property from this class, and you can actually get that information, or get the class that you're trying to get, the singleton. So let's hop onto Visual Studio and see how this is done. We're going to be creating a mono singleton.
Okay, so I have created a new project in Unity, version 2019.4.12 F1, if you want to use that one. If you want, you can use any other one, as long as it's close in the version numbers. Let's go ahead and set up our project here. So if you're new to programming, or if you're new to making games, it is very important to keep track and manage your projects, and make sure that you're organized. It's going to be way easier for you in the long term to be able to find things easier and faster, as well as if you're working with other people, it's going to be easier and faster for them to also work along with you and be able to find things. So please don't just throw things anywhere. It can be frustrating, especially when the project gets super huge and you don't have anything organized. Please organize things. I'm gonna start off by creating my hierarchy, and we're not gonna go into like creating the production or prefab or whatever folders. So we're just gonna go straight into the subcategories. So we always want to have our scripts folder. We always want to have our scenes folder. We always want to have our prefabs folder. And we always want to have our resources folder. And in here, we're going to be creating 2 scenes, but for now we don't really have to worry about that. Let's go into our scripts, and in here we're going to also create a singleton folder, or singletons, maybe singleton, sure. And inside of that folder, we are going to create our C# class called mono singleton. So let's open that up. Okay, so let's delete everything that is in here. And let's modify the definition of this class. So we're going to call it mono singleton, and we're going to be templating this class. So we're just going to pass this T. This is going to be whatever class we inherit, whatever child class inherits from mono singleton. In this case, our match info is going to be, or maybe the match info system is going to be in place of this once we actually create it. But what this lets us do, what a template lets us do, is it lets us create a mono singleton class, in this case, with whatever type we want. So we are going to be inheriting from mono behavior. So if you're new to programming, and if you haven't gone through OOP or object-oriented programming, this might be a little bit confusing to you. But essentially, what this means when we inherit from something is that there is a base class. This is where base class comes in. So we have a class, and it doesn't originally inherit from anything. And if we want to extend or add on to that class, and there are many reasons why we would and why we wouldn't, but we're not going to get into those today. If you would like me to make a video on that, please comment below. But essentially, we're extending mono behavior into mono singleton. So what does that mean? That means that mono singleton is going to have all of the functionality, all of the code that mono behavior has. And that is pretty much it. So that is what inheritance means. Okay, we are creating a child class, which is mono singleton, from the parent class mono behavior. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this, I guess I'll just add this one last thing, is the reason why we are doing this is because with mono behavior, what mono behavior allows us to do is it allows us to use our classes as, I just lost the word, components, as components in Unity for our game objects. And we'll show you what that means if you don't know what that means. But everything in Unity works with components. Okay, so this is kind of cool because you can kind of have modular pieces for your objects, and you can choose which things get added to an object and which things do not. And it allows you to swap things if you need to swap them at any time, which is kind of cool. So let's continue. So like we said, we're going to have a static private instance. This is our variable. So what this is going to have is we're going to have a reference internally for our class, which is the T that we talked about. Okay, and it's static because we want to access it from anywhere. Now, we won't be able to access this one per se because it's private, and you don't ever, I've seen this done a lot, and you don't ever want anybody to access this pointer essentially, because they could just destroy it. They could just do whatever they want with it, and you don't want that. Okay. So make sure you do not expose this to other people like this. Make sure it is private or even protected, which if you don't know what the difference is between private and protected, that's out of the scope of this video. So just comment below and let me know if you need more information on that, and I can make that video for you. Okay, so we have these two variables. This is going to let us know if we want any instance of our singleton to be persistent. If it's true, we're going to persist. If it's false, we're not going to persist. And we'll talk about that more later. And this will let us know if we have initialized this instance or this mono singleton. So what is this? This is similar to this, but notice it's capitalized and it has a get. I'm not sure what you can call it, but I guess a getter. While this one doesn't have anything. This is called a property in C#, and what this allows us to do is it allows us to pretty much put code behind accessing of variables. So we pretty much, in this case, we have a getter and we are associating this instance with this lowercase instance, which is up here. That way, we cannot access this guy. We can't access this guy. We can't access it directly. We have to go through this guy because this guy has a getter. And we don't want a setter. There's also a setter, but we don't want it because we don't want people we don't want to allow anybody to set this instance. That's the whole reason that's the entire reason why we did it this way, because we just want people to access the data, not change the data, if that makes any sense. So let's go over what it does real quick. So here we first check to see if our instance, if it's empty, if it's null, if it doesn't exist yet. And if it doesn't exist, we're going to try to find it by doing find object of type and passing the type, which is t. And if it returns something, it's not going to be null. It's going to be something. But if it is null still, that means there is no instance yet. So we need to create one. And the way that we create one is just we create a regular game object. We pass in the name as the class that we are trying to create. And then we add the component of the type that this mono singleton is. And that add component returns that type, the instance of that type, and we pretty much assign it to instance. So now we actually have an instance. We are now created, and we can move on. So once we have been created, at this point, we assume that we are created and everything worked fine. So we're going to try to see if this instance has been initialized. We won't always run this code, so we do have to at some point check, is this initialized? If it's not, we're going to run this function called onInitialize, which we're going to create in a second, and we're going to let other people change it based on their needs. And if you're not sure how to do that, we'll go over that in a little bit. So once we have initialized this, inside of this function, we're going to turn this to true. So we only initialize once when we get the instance. And then when we get here, we're trying to see, we're trying to find this object called managers. And the reason why it's good to create it like this is so that we are organized and we know where all of the singletons or managers or systems are that only have a single instance. So we try to find it. If we cannot find it, then we are going to create it. And we're going to make sure that we call do not destroy unload. And as you guessed it, as the name implies, whatever game object gets passed into here, it does not destroy the target object when loading a new scene. So, this is actually this is actually how you prevent things from getting destroyed when you load a new scene. Okay, so this is going to be very important. And once we do that, we set the stay alive property, not this one, the property here, we set it to true. And you'll see why I made this one into a property as well. We're going to create it in a little bit. But if we do want to stay alive, we are just going to parent ourselves into the parent, and everything's going to get organized. So if the parent cannot delete itself, or it doesn't delete itself when something gets loaded, neither will we. So we only need to keep track of one object like that instead of having multiple objects. So once we do want to get deleted by the loader, then we can just unparent ourselves. Okay. And then once we do everything, we return this instance so that people can use whatever object they're trying to use. All right. So now let's implement some of these functions that we are missing. So we're going to I'll write it out first, and then, sorry. Okay. So this function is the one that we're calling up here. And if you're new to programming, you're probably going to be like, what the hell is that? Well, in OOP, object-oriented programming, and polymorphism, a virtual function is a function that can be changed when you create a new class from a parent class, if that makes any sense. Okay, so once we create our match info system or whatever, we can override this function and change completely what it does or add on to it, which we're probably not going to change what it does. We are probably just going to add to it. And if you were asking what is base dot and then on initialize, you'll see that very shortly. Okay, and stay tuned. Watch the rest of the video. All right, so what are we going to do in here? We're just going to say that we have been initialized. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's all it's going to do. We're not going to really have anything in here because we're going to leave it up to whoever creates classes with by extending this class. Okay, so then now we need to create this property, and we can actually have, I believe, a virtual property as well. So we are actually just going to do this for now, and we're not even going to worry about this one. I changed my mind on that. So we're just going to be using this property. And whenever we want to change this to be true or false, we just got to override this to return true instead of false. And it's pretty simple. Okay, and then we also want to create a function or another property, not a function, that we can call and it'll tell us if this instance is actually initialized or not. And the way we do that, we just have to call our monosingleton dot instance. But what I'm going to do is instead of using the little one, I'm going to use this one so that whenever we call this, it pretty much will always be true, because as soon as we call this, if it doesn't exist at the moment, we are going to go through this procedure and create it. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, comment below.
What's up, guys? George Wulfers here. So I am in the middle of editing the video for you guys for this week, and it's gonna be split into maybe 6 sections. The reason why is I'm only in the second section at the moment, and it's already over an hour. So yeah, stay tuned for not gonna wait a whole week for to give you guys the next video, so just keep an eye out. It'll coming soon. So there you have it. I hope this video was helpful and of value to you. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified when I post a new video every Monday. Be sure to also share this video with anyone you think will benefit from it. If you have any questions, please post them on the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you would like to receive updates from us and keep track of what we have planned for this channel, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. All the links are down below. We are going to be making some courses for you all with more in-depth information and a lot more perks. So, if you would like to be one of the first people to hear about when it will be released, join our mailing list. We won't spam you. We actually hate that sort of thing. So here are other videos on game programming using Unity and C#. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Welcome to our new vid.